Hello viewers, very warm good morning from our studios here on Kairaba Avenue. You're watching QTV, the Gambia's first private TV station. And it is exactly 125 days today since Gambians voted in a presidential election on 4 December 2021. Well, today, Gambians are back to the polls to vote in a parliamentary election. And over 900,000 registered voters are voting across the country in 53 constituencies where they will be choosing who is going to be in the next legislature of the country, knowing the fact that National Assembly election is quite very important. So Gambians are out today to vote as to who will represent their constituencies in the National Assembly. We're broadcasting here from our studios, also streaming on Facebook and YouTube at QTV Gambia, and also having this broadcast on Q Radio. We have our reporters across all the regions of the country who will be giving us up to date as to whatever is happening wherever they are. Like I said, we have 12 political parties that have put up candidates in this election. 6 haven't, and then we've seen the APRC party putting up 7 candidates, and among the 7 candidates we have seen they have retained 4 of their sitting MPs. We have Musa Amul Nyasi of Kwanyi Councillor, Modu Kamara of Bintan Karanai, Alaji Sankun Jame of Kwanyi Jarol, Kadi Kamara of Bondali, and then Sunkar Baji is not coming back. He's been replaced by one Ibo Koli. We've seen also APRC putting up 1 candidate in Joswan constituency and also in Bunukakunda constituency by the name Suleiman Jame and Serif Sar. There's only 1 woman, and then there's Kadi Kamara of Fonyi Bondali. When it comes to the National People's Party, they're putting up 40 candidates, except in the Fonyi region, in the 5 Fonyis, Bunukakunda constituency and Joswan. Banjul Central as well, PPP. NPP is not putting up a candidate in Banjul Central, and also in other 5 constituencies where you have the NRP candidates. Out of these 40 candidates, NPP has chosen to retain 8 that have cross-carpeted from the UDP to NPP and 2 from GDC to NPP. In this case, we have 3 women in that 40 list. 3 women. These are Fatmata Jawara of the constituency, Anti Rohisisa of Nyani, and Muskeba Keta of Same constituency. National Reconciliation Party, NRP party, is also maintaining their 5 candidates who are currently in parliament, and that is Usman Toure of Sabak Sanjal. We have Saini Jawara of Lower Salum, Alajimbo of Upper Salum constituency, Amadou Kamara of Nyanaja constituency, and Samba Jalo of Nyamina Danguko constituency. There's no woman as far as the NRP is concerned. And the National Unity Party, NUP, is putting up 4 candidates in Jokadu constituency, Nyamina West, Old Yundum, and Upper Fuladu West constituency. There's only 1 woman who is Chinaba of Jokadu constituency. And now to the United Democratic Party, UDP. UDP is putting up 46 candidates, except in Fonyi Bondali, Fonyi Councillor, Fonyi Brefet, Fonyi Bintang, Busumbala, Wuli East, and Jemara constituency. Initially, they had submitted 48, but because we have seen 2 have been rejected in the case of Momodu Sabali for Busumbala constituency due to the Jana Commission, and Fatmata Juara of Wuli East, who was part of the previous IEC voter registration. In this list, we have seen the United Democratic Party has maintained 17 of their sitting National Assembly members. And in this list, we have seen 6 women. They have the highest number of women as far as this parliamentary election is concerned. We have seen Yakumba Jaito of Serekunda, Jarai Fayinke of Janjambure, Halimatu Sadia Sow of Lower Salum, Tida Kiera of Wuli West, Maimuna Gay of Sabak Sanjal, and Fatu Cham of Sana Menteng constituency. Gambia for All Party is putting up 3 candidates in Banjul Central, Kiang West, and Upper Nyomi. There's only 1 woman, and that is Aminata TB Jara of Banjul Central constituency. And PDOIS party, DOI, is putting up 19 candidates. 3 have been retained from the sitting MPs. We have seen Usman Sila of Banjul North constituency, Suwaibu Ture of Wuli East, and Sidia Jata of Wuli West constituency are seeking re-election. And in this list, we have seen 3 women. We have Fatu Sow of Serekunda West constituency, Aminata Korea of Latrikunda, and Yimalisa Kujabi of Busumbala constituency. CA, Citizens Alliance, is putting up 10 candidates in this election. Bundukakunda constituency, Serekunda West, Lower Nyomi, Jara East, Sana Mentrang, Same, Nyanija, Nyamina Dankunku, Upper Nyomi, and Old Yundum constituency. There's only one woman, and that is Nene Freda Gomez of Serekunda West constituency. Gambia Democratic Congress Party, GDC. GDC is putting up 27 candidates. I mean, they have chosen to return 2 of their sitting MPs, Omar Sise of Nyamina East and Alaji Sow of Jemara constituency. There's no woman in this 27 candidates put up by the Gambia Democratic Congress Party. And GMC, Gambia Moral Congress Party, they are putting up 3 candidates, Combo South, Woolly West, where the party leader himself, my party, is contesting, Woolly West, and also in Woolly East constituency. There's no woman. And All People's Party. All People's Party is contesting just one constituency, and that is Lower Salem constituency. PPP is putting up only one candidate, and that is Mohammed Ndaw, the sitting MP of Banjul Central constituency. So basically, you will realize that we have 166 candidates on the party tickets. There are 85 independent candidates, and that is, you will see these 85 independent candidates. You have 4 in Banjul, 12 in Kanifi municipality, 31 in the Brikama administrative area, 7 in North Bank region, 6 in the Masakongo administrative area, 20 in the Janjambure administrative area, and 5 in the Basse administrative area. In total, you have 251 candidates that were accepted by the Independent Electoral Commission, but 5 withdrew, and now we are left with 246 candidates. As we speak, 246 candidates are going to contest in this in today's parliamentary election. Quite interesting. Like I said, I mean, we have our reporters across the country. We'll be going live and talk to all of them as we progress on this broadcast. And then I'm gladly joined here by Mr. Momadou Mbouch to help us discuss, I mean, the importance of this election. I mean, looking at the diversity of the selection, the independent candidates. I mean, welcome to the program, Mr. Mbouch.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Good. I mean, looking back at what is happening today, how important is this day for Gambians?
Oh, it is hugely significant. Let's recall from 2017 to now, so much has happened. The pieces, politically have moved around a bit. NPP has been formed, and now it's their leader, who is the president. He swept the presidential elections. So perhaps one of the questions will be, how would that translate into National Assembly votes for the NPP candidates? That much we really do not know. For me, that would be something that I would love to know. And also voter turnout. It was really staggering that in the presidential elections we had, what, close to 90%. Would we have a similar thing here? So that is also an uncertainty. So this is a hugely significant election, because here UDP again, 2017 31, how many seats will they have this time? So the pieces have moved around a bit. It's like as if the kaleidoscope has been shaken. So when it settles, in which direction will it face, I do not know yet.
Yes, like you said, I mean, in the last legislature, we saw the United Democratic Party got 31 seats, Gambia Democratic Congress Party, that's GDC, 5, APRC, 5, PDIS 4, NRP 5, People's, that's PPP 2, and we have seen Gambia for Independent Candidate 1, and then the 5 appointed MPs by the president. But I mean, looking at the figure, if I am right, you can rectify if I am wrong, but I think this is the highest as far as National Assembly election is concerned, looking at the interest, 251.
Yes.
By no means a small number.
Oh, absolutely, yes. But we've seen this sort of, can we call it an explosion, if you like, of political interests. Everybody's been politicized, you know what I mean? After the 22 years, when we got our voices back, everybody was just interested. The political space was open. So one is not surprised, to have this number of people being interested in politics and going into politics. Of course, in the nature of this game, sooner or later, time will sort of whittle down the numbers, of course, sooner or later. But it's a healthy thing as far as I'm concerned.
But if you look at it, like you said, I mean, in the last presidential election, we saw the NPP swept almost quite a good number of the constituencies. How important is this election for them? And even the opposition as well.
This is a test. Just as with the presidential, that was uncharted territory. You know, President Barrow really didn't know how things were going to go. You know, people had their suspicions, but yet he had to demonstrate it. It's the same here. How would that goodwill, I mean, he won by a huge margin, will that necessarily reflect in the National Assembly elections, where I think that maybe local constituency issues dominate people's thinking, as it were, in who to vote for, and the candidates, how connected are they locally, that sort of thing. I think these things do matter. So it will be interesting to see how things will pan out, as it were, in the elections, in the National Assembly elections.
And you've been following the debate that we've been hosting here on QTV, where we have a quite good number of candidates, especially in the Greater Banjul area. From what you have heard from them, what's your judgment?
This is tricky ground here, because people are going out to vote, and we must be very careful what we say, not to prejudice.
No, generally.
To me, the very fact that at least some of them have decided to come and engage in debate, that in itself is healthy. The exchange of ideas, and even then you also expose your personality. So people who watch would have gained important insights into these candidates, and this is really what we are there to do. So that was a wonderful thing. Those who watch will understand their candidates, and that's all there is to it, really.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moch. Mbadi ngolo melbe QTV jube kang mbafra ko mutanan ko tenka bidung lumbalam Gambia jang National Assembly election wala be kering gamino le bidaka ko carte fay député mi ala ko wala ñata la National Assembly pour na banko ñi bidung nga commencé ko tenke ngalo be talla jam fo to moment wato result be announce na reporters they out across the country ni be kada diamula ke ñini ka ibe damento and mo be kering mola finte be ñaadi anin tenko be je ñaadi mbe be natala jang QTV jang mbokki ngami na saran QTV di len dalala rek len wax ni dersi wat ni fi pour indi len nga ne mo nekk sun comprehensive election coverage bi ñepp xam nañ tay mom Gambia ci nga delu pour sani carte pour député yi nga xam ne ñoo war a dem pour représenter si néegi député tey nag loolu lañ fi amal an nañ sun taskati xibaar yi nga xam ne ñëpp ñu ngi tasaaroo si dëkk bi fii ba Basse pour indil ñu lépp loo xam ne moo fa xew musidɗo am bisimilla ɗo QTV mi arti kadi pour adana mo ganduɗa ko on woni National Assembly election hande noon gamminaɓe hemin dutto kadi pour ɓe préo carte pour ɓe cuuɓa homo heɓe wonta toro suudu député ɓe to QTV min arti kadi ɗo wonɗo ƴeftoɓe amen hibaru yi fof heɓe Gambia fof bila ɗo ha Basse so Allah jaaɓi min haaldata maɓe pour ɓe haalna men hoɗo ɓe woni he hono toon woniri yimɓeɓe kadi ɓe punti ala ɓe puntani no for me and QTV. Viewers, you're still watching QTV, and we are broadcasting live from our studios here on Kairaba Avenue. Like I said, I mean, we have reporters out and about in the field. They will be updating us as to whatever is happening wherever they are. I mean, just to give you a better understanding of what this National Assembly election is all about, according to Section 89 of the Constitution, which states that a person is qualified for election to the National Assembly if he or she is a citizen of the country, has attained the age of 21 years, has been ordinarily resident in the constituency for a period of at least 1 year prior to nomination day, is able to speak the English language with a degree of proficiency sufficient to enable him or her to take part in the proceedings of the National Assembly, and has made such declaration of his or assets to the Independent Electoral Commission as is required in accordance with Section 43. Disqualification of membership of the National Assembly. Section 90 of the Constitution states that no person is qualified for election as a member of the National Assembly if he or she holds the citizenship or nationality of a country other than the Gambia, is adjudged under any law of the Gambia to be of unsound mind, is under the sentence of death imposed on him or her by any court, or is serving or within 5 years of his or her nomination for election completed serving a sentence of complete serving a sentence of imprisonment for a term not exceeding 6 months imposed on him or her by a court or substituted by competent authority for some other sentence imposed on him or her by a court and has not received a free pardon, has been found guilty of any abuse of office, corruption, or any offense connected with public elections by a court, has been by a report of commission or committee of inquiry, the proceedings of which have been held and published in accordance with the relevant law, to be incompetent to hold public office by reason of having acquired assets unlawfully or defrauded the state or misused or abused his or her office or willfully acted in a manner prejudicial to the interest of the state, and the findings have not been set aside on appeal or judicial review. Within the 3 years preceding nomination day, holds or acts in any office prescribed by an act of the National Assembly, the function of which involve responsibility for or in connection with the conduct of the elections to the National Assembly or the compilation of any register of voters for the purpose of which for such an election. So basically, that's what it is saying. I mean, also if you are as a district chief or alcalo, you cannot contest in the election. Basically, I was just trying to say, I mean, what the law says as to who is qualified and who can be disqualified as far as this election is concerned. Let's look at the issue of women participation in politics. We've seen 19 contesting.
Yes.
What does this tell?
What does it tell? The same old story. Any surprises there? No, because we haven't seen anything that has a radical shift, any transformative shift, even though the rhetoric is so much about gender equality and all the rest of it. But the reality is that we are still a kind of conservative, traditional society, and these changes are always going to be slow. Only recently, remember the constitutional amendment bill, you were the one covering it in the National Assembly. You saw what happened during the second reading. People just didn't care. I'm afraid this is going to take some while, because the radical change that you need, the initiative, the radical initiative that you need, it's really not going to work here. It seems that is why sort of most reforms, sort of transformative reforms, have been quite slow in coming in. So this is going to be a very slow process for women to really be participating, even though we all encourage it. Yet you've seen the figures. I mean, maybe for PDOIS, quite impressed. What, 6 candidates? 3 women. Isn't
3
it?
women. They're putting up 19 candidates.
19 candidates
3
and
women.
3 women.
Yeah, that's
so that's it with all of them.
NPP 40,
and
3
3
women.
Absolutely.
UDP 46.
That's
they have 6 women. They have the highest number of women for this parliamentary election.
It tells you about the wider cultural issue. That's really what it is. So the advocates will continue to advocate for women's equal representation, obviously, and then women going to school, you know, learning more, perhaps becoming more politicized, being involved more in politics, and then will help the political parties themselves to mature and really put as part of their agenda gender equality and be serious about it. And that's all. It begins from there. Then it will translate nationally. So this is going to be a long haul, but we keep on hammering at it. And even when you look at it historically, you're seeing improvements. Go back 15, 20 years, it wasn't like that. Go back 50 years, it wasn't like that. So it depends on how you look at it. Of course, people of a certain mindset, of a certain bent, more feministic will say, I'm a bit conservative. Perhaps so, but I suspect that these social changes are the sort of stuff that takes time, really.
And let's look at people living with disability. I mean, we are not well represented in this parliamentary election. We have only one, which is one Lamin Mane of Sana Mentoring constituency.
Absolutely, it's just the same, you know, by analogy. So marginalized groups really don't get much voice, much hearing, to be quite honest. It's just that recently, with the development agenda, they've put it on it for people to take notice, but it's really not happening. Maybe one of the ways that it could have helped, you know, to kickstart, to trigger, push, give a decisive push to these reforms that we want to implement, would have been perhaps if we had a law saying, okay, 14 seats also reserved for women, this number of seats reserved for disability. That was perhaps the only time that you could really force the issue. Maybe at times, institutionally, structurally, you need certain instruments to force the issue. But it seems we do not want to force the issue. We just want history, whatever, to take its course. Fine.
And are you surprised to see some of the political parties not putting up any candidates? I mean, we have 18 currently 18 registered political parties and only 12. 6 out there are not putting up any candidate.
No,
Are you surprised?
No, wait. Why should one be surprised? Perhaps for me the greater surprise is this. 18 political parties and they all have leaders. I think it's only one that is contesting to go in the National Assembly. And we all know that most of them do not have any political experience, or at least not electoral experience, as it were. Then it prompts the question, why is that? Why is that? Why is it that the party leaders, most of them don't really have any electoral experience? Look at this, our National Assembly. It is so important that we really have high caliber people in there, but they've all shied away from that. So it also prompts sort of another thought. So what's going on here? Are some people telling us that they're a bit too good for the National Assembly? It's just the top office that we want, it's just the top office. So it triggers all sorts of feelings and thoughts in me, because all 18, all these parties, only one. Just pause for thought. I had to pause there to think about it. I'm not sure what it means. For me, that's the greatest surprise, actually.
Well, I mean, we're moving out from the 5th legislature to the 6th legislature. If you were to look back at the 5th legislature, how will you judge? What's your rating?
Oh, ratings, I'm very tricky. Let's put it this way. I think that holding government institutions to account, I think that especially when they were going through the financial statements of local authorities and various agencies, I think that they did quite well in exposing a lot of things. I think it was important for us to know that with most of these institutions, they are not following procurement procedure. And the accounting, the paperwork is all shoddy. It's important for us to know that, because we know that organizationally that is really the key. So they did wonderfully, brilliantly there. But again, who can ever forgive them for the draft constitution? That must also come. I don't think not many people will forgive them after they had spent so much money and apparently widely consulted, and yet the parliament just said no. Well, maybe we made a mistake. Do you know what? Because I'm not sure whether we thought about, after the thing had been drafted, would it go directly to the people, or was it going to go through the National Assembly? Because if it's going to go through the National Assembly, there was always the risk that they will reject it. Maybe we should have said, nope, we don't want it to go through the National Assembly. We want it to go directly to the people. Maybe that is what we should have said. But there you go. And then some people will say that with the gender equality thing, the constitutional amendment bill, what they did to it, and others. So the local government and act. So they've done some wonderful things, but again, in other areas, they've not been as progressive, perhaps, as we would have liked them to be.
And still talking about the issue of gender equality, women participation in politics. In the last legislature, we had 6 free were elected, 3 were nominated. And then now we're having 19 candidates coming up. Are you foreseeing this number going up, down, or just maintain the fray?
You mean in the national, this time, out of the 19,
out of the 19.
How many will get in?
Yeah.
Oh, I hope that we get more. Because with these things, you see, we are only sort of correspondents, not clairvoyants. Yeah. And so I hope that we get more. You see, it's important, to my mind, it's important that the National Assembly represents people, represents us out there. To my mind, ideally, it would have been better for us to have half and half in many ways, and some disability, because you have people out there. It is important for, I think, our National Assembly to reflect this out there so that the discussions will be more reflective of us. This is really the whole ideal. So the more women we have in there, the better as far as I'm concerned. And I think that we will see a difference in the quality of legislation, perhaps even the quality of the debates. I think where you have more women will change the dynamic, as it were, of the whole National Assembly. And maybe that will be the beginnings of interesting things.
I mean, earlier on, you talked about the possibility of us having a low voter turnout, perhaps because of the Ramadan and all that. I mean, but what's the difference here between the presidential election and the National Assembly election?
This is it, because with the National Assembly, it is more about local issues, one, and the candidate you put up. The last time it was just Barra, you know, it was just the president, as it were, and people had all sorts of reasons, you know, to be sufficiently motivated to go out and vote. Yes, but as we've seen with the last one as well, there was a low voter turnout in the parliamentary in 2017 compared to the presidential. So with that, you tend to have local issues and who is the candidate actually put up. So there could be all sorts of reasons why voters wouldn't turn out. Maybe they're not impressed with the quality of the candidate. Maybe they just don't care. We are so cynical, all these politicians. They're just there for themselves. There could be all sorts of reasons. You've mentioned Ramadan. I'm not sure. I think people can keep fast and yet go and vote. That sort of thing. I'm not sure if that will be a good excuse. So it will be interesting to see how things pan out.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moch. Viewers, you remember that you're watching QTV, the Gambia's first private TV station, and we're broadcasting live from our studios here on Kairaba Avenue, just right behind the Government Building. My name is Aliou Sese. Today, Gambians are heading to the polls to vote in a parliamentary election across 53 constituencies in the country. I mean, if we go back to the laws, I mean, Section 102 of the 1997 Constitution states that the functions and responsibilities of the National Assembly shall include making laws, review and pass national budget, ratify treaties that the Gambia has entered into at the regional or international level, as well as approve loans. NAMS also propose laws that will improve the well-being, governance and cohesion of Gambian society. So from this, you will understand the National Assembly is very, very important as far as monitoring, or performing their oversight functions over the executive is concerned, but also representing their people in Parliament to raise their issues. I mean, where national matters are concerned. Like you've heard from my colleague, Mr. Mbot, it is important that people go out and vote, because your vote is your voice. We are deciding a National Assembly that's going to be very crucial in how this country is run in the next 5 years. Like I said, we have our reporters across the country, from here up to Basse. We will get in touch with them to give us up to date as to what is happening wherever they are. Baringol hansa albe QTV jube kang mutana ko tenge pour ka député carte coverage natale bi don alialon ko bi gamina lu mur kan pour carte fay in 53 constituency ka wanya kara fo Basse pour ka kela mol tombong mi ala ko wala betale député bungoto. Let's now look at the issue of, you talked about having some of these political party leaders not wanting to go to the National Assembly. They all want to be at the highest office. In this case, having the only party leader that's contesting, that's my party of Gambia Moral Congress, which to me is going to be one of the most interesting constituency, Wole West, where you have my CDR, Tida Kijera, NPP.
Absolutely. and when I said about the political leaders, I was more sort of asking a question.
Yeah.
For me, the absence, very curious. Not attributing any motives to it. I have no idea what the motives are, but I can at least notice the absence. That's all it is. Of course, the Woolies, to my mind, a stronghold for video, it seems to be, because Woolly West, Sidia, the great doyen of Gambian politics, one of them at least, and Woolly East, Swaibu Toure. So, and I understand that GMC, are they also contesting Woolly East as well?
Yes.
So he seemed to be sort of
They have
quite confident.
Woolly East and Combo South.
Absolutely, seemed to be quite confident that they can take on, as it were, the incumbents in both cases. So it will be interesting to see. I would have thought that perhaps CDU would be difficult to dislodge, I mean, given historically what's been happening. So that will be a fascinating contest. And even in Serekunda as well, the incumbent Khalifa, you know, PDOIS is gone. So who's going to take over? So what was it all about in Serekunda? Was it about Khalifa, the personality, or PDOIS? We'll be able to test that in Serekunda as well. So interesting things going on. Even perhaps Banjul South. Yeah. You know, the incumbent came in 2017 on a PPP ticket, now running independent. How would that affect, as it were, the results? So in certain areas, it will be interesting. And even Amufoni Brefet, Sunkari Baji gone, so he's gonna the new person coming in, and Sana Jawara, is it Apafuladu is also gone, so who will come in? So there are very interesting prospects here.
And let's now look at the issue of Fonyi, very important as far as this country is concerned. But we have seen recent developments there, the instability, the chaos, and all that. Do you think this will in any way affect the voter turnout in Fonyi?
It very well might. Quite a number of voices have addressed this, or at least asked the IEC to work with the security forces to make sure that the polling stations, you know, these areas, we are all safe. You know, we provided the security for them to be able to go and vote. And as far as I'm aware, there were some assurances that it was safe and people could go and vote. And, you know, we haven't heard anything or seen anything to the contrary. So yes, a huge concern, obviously. And you might even think that even though there are assurances that security has been provided, yet you may have some who may decide to stay away. So it can affect it in any number of ways. We hope not by too much.
Well, we hope not by too much, but then, I mean, the impact is huge. And then, like you said, I mean, we hope the people of Fonyi will be able to go out and vote, because it is equally important for them. Let's now, I mean, earlier we spoke about the issue of the people living with disability. You talk about perhaps bringing in new laws that might compel some of these political parties to have people living with disability considered. Where do we start?
As you said, there was, okay, fine. There was recently a Disability Act that was passed
in Parliament.
So there are some areas in which really the government, at least the legislation, the legislative framework is being put in place. How it will be implemented, what would be implemented, that would be something else. But here, yes, the representation that we're talking about in the National Assembly, there has to be a law if you want to force the issue. So far they're reluctant. We'll see how it will go with the incoming parliament, but there must be a law really to force the issue. Otherwise it wouldn't happen. I understand the other argument that in a sense perhaps that might go against democracy, in the sense that just let the process take care of itself. You know, if it happened to elect a woman or a person with disability, well, fine, but no preferential treatment. Absolute brutal democracy, whatever is just simply is. This is how the market works.
It's all about competence.
It's all about competence and all. But here, this is where they get it wrong, I feel. When we say that women only list, that sort of thing, or disability only list, that sort of thing, you are not necessarily getting incompetent people, because there will be competition within that category, so you are going to get the best. So it is the wrong thought to automatically assume that if you say that we're going to have this sort of positive discrimination, then necessarily incompetent people will come in. I'm not sure if that is what we're talking about. In fact, if he had done that, perhaps that would have emboldened, you know, truly competent women who think that actually here now I have a chance. Because whenever they are pitched against men, you feel somehow disadvantaged because of how the culture is. We tend to see men more of leaders than we see women, that sort of thing. But if you had women on the constituencies, I think you would have attracted actually top quality women to contest, because they'll see an opportunity, a wonderful opportunity to go and go into the National Assembly and contribute. Likewise with disabled people as well. So to my mind, it's really the law that can force it. Otherwise, it's going to take a hell of a long time, God knows how many generations.
I mean, we're still looking at the constituencies. I mean, if you go back to the records, you realize that, I mean, Bakau is a very important constituency in this country. But we have only 2 candidates. One will have said Bakau will have at least 5, 6, 7 candidates, but and that's UDP, NPP.
Not necessarily. Bakau is an interesting constituency, and it's got this reputation where there are always opposition and that sort of thing. I remember back in the 80s, you know, when we had Dembo by force, absolutely used to win all the time. So yes, it will be interesting to see who will take it this time. They're known for their opposition, but I'm not sure. During the presidential, I think was
UDP won in Bakau.
UDP won in Bakau, didn't they? So they are living up to their reputation. So, but then, would it mean that the candidates will win in Bakau? It doesn't. It's not that simple. You see, this is the curious thing about these things. It doesn't automatically translate into that, because we've seen instances where they would vote in the president of one party, and then when it comes to the National Assembly, they vote somebody else in a different party. So there are just so many ifs. There's just so many ifs here, and we're wondering whether the power of incumbency will again work its magic in the National Assembly election.
Well, like you said, I mean, parliamentary election is quite different from the presidential election. People can vote for you in the presidential election. When it comes to parliament, I mean, it's more about the person they think, you know what?
Absolutely.
Has that, you know, that relationship with the people, that also counts as far as the National Assembly election is concerned. Well, viewers, you're still watching QTV. We're broadcasting live from our studios here on Kairaba Avenue. QTV, the Gambia's first private TV station in the country. We're also streaming on Facebook and YouTube at QTV Gambia, and also on Q Radio 103.3. And I understand my colleague Ansumana Eswanyasi is now live from Sukuta. Ansumana, if you can just hear me, tell us what is happening where you are in Sukuta.
Good morning, Ali. Good morning to Mr. Mboch and to our audience. Then I am in Sukuta, as you stated. But I just want to say quickly that, I mean, earlier I was at Serekunda Baptist where I casted my vote. But surprisingly, I was the only one there. At the time I arrived, and until I left, I was the only one there, even though I was informed by the presiding officer there, the returning officer that,
I mean, there were a few people who came in to cast their votes, but, you know, all that I saw is that there was no one. And from Serekunda Baptist, I also went to the polling station at, I mean, London corner as well. There too, I mean, I found almost, you know, no one. It was virtually empty. But then I moved to Sukuta, where I am presently, and as you can see behind me, the turnout here is pretty good. I mean, and I understand from the officers here, IC officials, that the turnout was, in fact, I mean, better earlier in the morning. So far so good. The turnout here is pretty good. You have about 4 to 5 polling stations here at this voting center, and I can tell you that the turnout is pretty good. And I have with me, I mean, one of the voters here, who is also a resident of Sukuta, but we will engage her and see, you know, what she also has to say. Itodu?
Nene Jao.
Nene Musukuta.
Yeah, I'm originally from Sukuta. Why Sukuta? Nata Puruka Kartiele Fai, Kana Banku di Yatandi Gambian or Lako. I am a proud Gambian. But the problem is Gambian will disappoint Tale because near crowd DB December 1st and him B is quite different. Hadamadi woman finted on December 1st and him B. Anna la quarter from woman finti B. mini wasabu I disappoint tale moduli bijebe kamfari ne man finti pour ka carte o fay ngamin expect ma wala je andu ma wala soto fana
ndol dara Serekunda ngadula fula fo saba ke bon ngajal ko je mol mam findele fang ndanga carte fay da men ndamale be nun je bare jangaje ko mol finditale bon abako ni ngamo e kamem fo abako mol man finti yo nyama
ha because Gambian will disappoint tale dol bijebe kamfaring dol yela voters card fay dol ya kati because ye min expect ima wala je ikante je December 1st nte nga chabiro le ke puli agent ole nata doran marran yembula len dunta na quartier fa inseta na suwo kono bod bi nata le rek fo modol ka kamfa ñi en tol tarajana aliya bula dunta e quartier fay ko ay na domoro la tabi ñola tinna nga bula dunta bod bi marran fa because ni ajibe e crowd jibe December 1st anim bi amankile nga min expect ma wala je Gambian will over disappoint tale to be honest.
Abaraka Bake, as you can see, I mean, she's a bit emotional. She's not happy with the turnout. I mean, she's very much disappointed with the turnout. She's saying that, I mean, during the presidential elections in December, the turnout was very, very good. But unfortunately today, I mean, it's not what really she expected. So, I mean, we would try to engage, you know, another person. But just to tell you quickly that we are here in Sukuta, and here we have about 5 polling stations at this center. Like I highlighted earlier, I mean, we were in Serekunda, Bartes, Serekunda, London Corner, but I mean, that place is virtually empty. Hopefully the turnout would be better, I mean, as the day progresses. But, I mean, Aliou, basically this is, mbokk yi kon ba léegi ñu fàttali ne ñu ngi ne fii ci biir Sukuta, comme ni nga ko déggee rek ci kàllaama Mandinka ak lii di Angale. ñu ngi njëkkee woon ci fi nga xamante ne moo di Serekunda Bartes ñu jógee foofu tamit ñëw ci London Corner ci biir Serekunda waaye foofu nit ñi génn ñoonu loolu waral nag ñu continuer ñëw fii ci biir Sukuta Serekunda Bartes sax foofu man fa laa sànne suma carte waaye fekkuñ fa kenn Serekunda London Corner nag biñ fa demee foofu tamit dafa mel ni nit ñi génnuñ fii ci biir Sukuta nag tane na waaye comme ni ngeen ko déggee ci waxtaan bi nga xam ne la ñu am ak ndaw si jógee fii moom wane na daal li nga xamante ne moo di naxaram ndax wax na ne nit ñi génnuñ li ñu doon séntu ne nit ñi noonu lañu doon génnee mu ne nit ñi génne wuñ noonu ndax wax na ne ci jamono bi nga xam ne ñu doon sànni carte ci décembre ci sànni carte presidential election bi mu ne nit ñi génnoon nañ torop waaye tey nit ñi génnuñ moom nag naxarul na ko ndax wax na ne daal dafa mel ni nit ñi seen ñàkk a génn moom xalaat na ci lu bëri te mu ngi koo ñaawlu waaye daal mun naa wax ne Aliou si gàttal lii moo nekk di xew fii ci biir Sukuta ci jamono ji.
Well, so if you can just share with us, I mean, we know that polling stations will open at 8 a.m. Have you been able to find out whether they actually start at 8 a.m.? And in terms of security, how is the security situation there?
I did engage all the officers, IC officials here, and I mean, as far as they are concerned, they have not had any challenges. They started on time. Voting is going on smoothly. No challenges, no complaints, no problems whatsoever. But then the only disappointment so far is the turnout of the voters. But again, Aliou, I have one of the voters here again. We will try to engage her. I mean, assalamu alaikum. Me konto na itolu.
Tum awalti. Jata.
Fana musukuta nko.
Ha, musukuta janne, wuluta janne.
Afele findita inatela carte fay carte fay nyindingi yaje nyadile
carte fay ñi nga jabe ta ku kanne mol bina kanne kilin yalla be sunkarol fana kon mol bi ma wuli so mol bina kanne kilin ka fay
nata ye message le soto pour mol ye melbe tele jibe kan Gambien ol pour ye findita carte fay be kala monati
natara
pour mol la finto kana carte fay ngaje ko ndol ndara Serekunda le ngaje jibe wat mol mam finti jam fana nga understand ko mol mel finti da December aning bi amankel nga fara dale abako mol mam finti bake bi nata ye kumal soro pour ka fo mol me be tele jibe kan sa avec la monati
ntanga mi soto wolo mo banku dingol sa fo nyim fana fenneti mi yalna important tale député carte fayo mol be nyanta tray la le finti nanan ngana banku dingol fa sanga carte fay is very important so ntangole soto mole mo be laring ni wulita mo be ya traye nana as a citizen ye carte fay nyanta di la minna ya diala wala nyanta kake
Ite carte file hani problem o ma soto je.
Ha, ntanga file man problem soto man ni ku ya ku soto man bata ku soto. Ha.
Abaraka baki.
Okay, thank you very much. Fada abaraka baki.
All right. Aliu, I mean, as you can hear from that voter as well, I mean, she's very happy with the process. I mean, she has no complaints. But then she also has a message for, I mean, people out there, for voters out there to come out and vote. Again, I think the low voter turnout is a concern for even those that have, I mean, turned up today to cast their votes. We will try to engage, I mean, one of the voters again to also share with us his thoughts regarding the voting process here in Sukuta. And of course, I mean, if he has any message as well for our viewers out there. Assalamu alaikum. Ke mbe kontonna.
Ngejo.
Itodu.
Mamadou Aicha.
Mamadou, ye voting process jenyade lebi.
Okay, alhamdulillah ngal ala tentu ba nga presence ke Cairo kono. Afele ale mabe fana parliamentary la. But near generalize ya jibe since the days ntolonga carte fawlo wato mina. Gambe nolu nke presence la hatibake. But deputy carte faw mbika hatibake because near jibe the turnout today is very very poor. You know, as at now, I'm content dal because parliamentary niya wata tara jambo farin tap you know for mulka bisal. But regular saying Jannon station want ya jelo will be abanne to 495 still mulka na nyami katawa nyawa. So Gambia, my advice is nga nyanda tira nga deputy carte fayo nga kumaya ndiko nga presidential kumaya nyame because niya jibe atele fango famu kitinti. You know, na Gambia ta rangsilo kono because luwa kendolu anu ku kendo mil lafta na banko kan deputy le nyanda kama sama ko wala so nimmawo kuma yandi so na president carte fa man kuma ya ndala jerota
ngalon ko molla finti balia is a concern for you but then ite a process in jenyadi le carte nying ya faile mahani problem fanan soje
yeah coming Gambia jang nte safo carte niba voting akatala smoothly because near percentage when it is 50 plus peaceful so mu kairolte jang kabinu somanda mol natale mol manyo disturb the atmosphere is very very nice you know mol carte fay nicely but coming up the turnout onying they I think malo minika mol milba mol ya marra pour mol ya mar kendeke pour nga député carte fayo kumayande Abaraka yes.
So Aliu and Mr. Mboch, you've heard from that voter as well. I mean, we'll also try to engage another one to also share his thoughts with us. Again, like I said earlier, it appears for all the people we are talking to, I mean, the low voter turnout is indeed a concern. It's a concern for everyone. Keitodu?
Bukari chamleti.
Bukari bi kate fo yaje nyadele.
Kate fayo tono poni tandilo ko porter. You understand it? When you come to presidential election, ni nata janjam mol fata la faka bon. Mol ya miranu anin kuol nata finti nyami wala atina mol manna pour ka carte fay. Bari ndasa mol dan no minna dorong coming carte na famu minti ni voters card soto aman need pour ya fili laring ana fam minti nana e carte fay bari komi sa fo nyaawonya mol kampala tinna mo jama manna bari se sabar dorong yana e carte fay so tono po nying because of mole miranu anin cool nata finti nyami wo disappointment o latinna ntela miroto tono po nyim mambete ya yes
voting process nying ite aja nyadile e carte file ma handi problem soto je
coming like this other one yeah because there is no coming like moments here or hadama the moments here da problem because siaje ya understand it but mo siata da then if ankalo nako for push and pull ko wole keje yeah
message le soto pour mol be tele jibe kan sign time because nyimbe live le ebe mo no follow kambiano
coming like yeah coming dal yalon ale mol fana dale mol mankiliya barinte kundu wonte santala fono comme inte kay votes card na bambula na fam minute pour nga na nga carte fay. Yes.
Barakabake, Mr. Cham. Aliu, I mean, you've heard from that voter as well. I think it's generally, I mean, they all share the same views regarding their disappointments on the low voter turnout. And of course, this could be attributed to various factors, according to the people we spoke to. But again, I mean, I think the message should be for everyone watching this broadcast now that are yet to cast their votes to do so, because this is equally as important, I mean, as the presidential elections. So, Aliu, I mean, basically, this is what is happening here. Anyway, we have a few more people here who would also want to talk to us. Assalamu alaikum, Uncle Bekonton.
Rahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh. Ikafontele Kaliba, MPP Sukuta Political Bureau, PRO, Binak, Natale Janabi. Aha.
Ngalon ko bi manke political lunte kate fay lungolemu but ide kat possession yi jeñadi le
alhamdulillah rabbil alamin kate fay woni nak abeta kan kunke problem manke mol bena kanne dumanding tuma dobe ton auto ni mansia malo meyo kendi fo asike sunkarol fana yo kendi bari nyaato dumandi molbe fundla nanne melbe katro fayla bar molbe fundi kan nanne dumandi kanela katro fay kanela ila vote nyol kas ha inshallah ando nyi kate fawo nyi nan alhamdulillah rabbil alamin abe kala nyon tanati nyi nan ha mbe la fila mo be ya fay MPP la kayso kono
Baba Abaraka, thank you. We bank political lungti, but anyway, thank you.
Salam.
Tolu.
De Alaji Njai.
Alaji yep carte fay ñu ñaadi la.
Ntelemu NPP Sukutala Secretary General ti. Just nata jang ka na party agent ol nata wala jibe has a case of vice ka jibe fodo ko bajam fa bita kan kole. But alhamdulillah, jang nari nyameng the turnout here is very poor. Compared to the presidential election, you know. So ngal nako maybe a issue lebi jemi along ko monyenta ninku kola monyenta uljibe lalme o sabu isaje mo se in future mo so ofrandano kaje ko ofrandada kajibe fo o ninku sifal o kana soto ha.
Bemana fala mole mel betele jibe kan sainteng melian ko be soko ne man carte fay folo
melbe soko no sainte mem fole sainte momo yalon ko be soko no e be la moy kan mba fole ko e be dawda e wuli ina carte fay dula ina carte fay because nin carte fay ko mata bakale e mol kana je ko comme presidential election da mala ko mera bare nim fanan ko mayata bakale because nin parti e nin parlementaire non ken mel tombong e to lobe kala nyaati to lobe singolti député bungoto so nyintal they will choose the right people pro kanana katrangi so ni tebe sidin so kono you feel like coming among kumaya ete mobi de represent kam yalan ko ete fe you know obi de represent kan among tara comme ete momi yalan ko imaji ko be so ngamul na ngaji me yan kon jigite la ngobi me represent kan be represent la ngana karte dila ko meta bakala abaraka bak thank you so much.
Thank you. So we engage one more and then we would then hand over back to you. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Itolu.
Do Momadou Diallo le.
Ye election on ñaadi lebi.
Yeah, election is going free and fair. So modbe finti kanana coming as usual yalo ne modol ka fale ko somanda juno e wuli etala firol especially musolu firikola isina ina carte fay. But neither station or dolto ikatare over foreign, but neither la dolto ikatare half and half. But you know, as we go along, mol kana mol bina kana purkana carte ofai. Anyama, yes, yeah. Barakabake, thank you so much. Yeah.
All right. So ali umbari ngol kalia janyamendrong ferali sukuta bidum na programo nyi dari sekundale bare je mam motara je botaje fanan na rasukuta jang but jandung mol be fintenan kanne ando nga understand fanan ko le ko mol fintra nun ne somonda suba ma fongola bare nim mol mel be diamuta ibe ka kuma kilingola mal fo wala ko mol mam finti wo nyama ando mol la finti baliya fanan woye concern bakele mbokk yi kon ñu ngi leen nekkal fii ci biir Sukuta bala maa joxewaat rek kaddu gi suma naataangoo ci Kairaba Avenue xamal leen rek ne ñu ngi tàmbali li nga xamante ne moo di suñu programme Serekunda Battes foofu nag fekkuñ fa kenn ñu ñëw Serekunda London Corner foofu bu ñu fa àggee tamit nit ñi génnuñu noonu waaye fii ci biir Sukuta nit ñi génn nañ waaye tamit ñi nga xam ne lañ jot a waxtaanal liñ ñu woon daal mooy ne nit ñi génnuñ comme nuñ génne woon ci presidential election bi te ñaawlu nañ tamit nit ñi seen ñàkk a génn so Aliou I'll hand over to a transmission to you and Mr. Mboj and our colleagues down there for now.
Thank you very much, Ansumana Esonyasi. My colleague, they are currently at Sukuta, bringing us up to speed as to what is happening in Sukuta. Well, Sukuta is in the Sanamenteng constituency, and this constituency has a total registered voters of 53,264 voters in that particular constituency, and then there are almost a good number of candidates in that particular constituency. We have six candidates in the Sanamenteng constituency. Mr. Mboj, you have heard from Ansumana, the turnout in Serekunda Bartes, London Corner, virtually nobody was there, and Sukuta also is not as good as we would have expected. Perhaps yes. It's too early also to make a conclusion, but from what we have seen this morning, the turnout is very poor.
And absolutely so, and even before we saw that, we had sort of said a similar thing, that voter apathy. This is something that we tend to see when it comes to the National Assembly elections. But again, I suspect that if the turnout goes below a certain threshold, maybe that would be saying something much larger. We'll have to watch that and see how far it will go down, from the 20, if you like, from the presidential elections, isn't it? The 90% or so turnout in the presidential. So that will tell you something else. And there you've heard it, and also the voters that Ansumana was talking to, some of them expressing disappointment. It's quite curious. They all echo the same thing, the same refrain, the disappointment in what's going on. One also suspects that you realize right now the high cost of living. A lot of people are not really happy about things. And I'm not sure whether they can see in this National Assembly members as people who can solve their problems. So it seems that could be one of the factors really at play in this. So the cynicism, we've talked about the cynicism for a while, but this is really where you see it. People perhaps think that, why bother with the National Assembly? The only person really who can do something for you in this country is the president.
The executive.
The executive. So there could be all sorts of things at play here. And the cynicism, is it just with government or with politicians generally? This will take some study. We have to think about it. But it will be interesting to see how far below would it go. And then we must have a discussion on what does that mean. How can we do politics in which we restore trust? Without that trust, it's meaningless. Then it will be a caricature, a parody, if you like, of democracy. But that trust is absolutely crucial for us to have these results. But why has this trust eroded? So we'll see how far below it will go, and then how we are going to discuss it.
Yeah, and in Sanamenteng constituency, we have Balandeng Jata, CE, Babagale Jallo, NPP, Victor P. Jata, PDOIS, Vaticham, UDP, Lamid Mane, Independent, and Abdul Baji, Independent. These are the candidates in the Sanamenteng constituency, where my colleague Ansumana Esonyasi is a Sukuta, also part of that same constituency. And now let's look at the effect of voter apathy on the outcome of election. What is the effect, the negative effect of having that low turnout?
Well, the first thing...
In whose interest is it?
Who's got... See, let's put it this way. Who's got the most to gain if you have a low turnout? Yeah. Then I will flip the question. Who's got the most to lose
Oh, okay. Okay. Let's now.
Maybe the one who's got the most to lose will find more inspiration, more motivation to get up and go and vote.
Yeah.
Who do you think has got the most to lose? I'll leave it hanging in there.
Well, viewers, you remember that you're still watching QTV, and we are broadcasting live from our studios here on Kairaba Avenue, just right behind the QCN building. My name is Aliu Sise, and I'm here with Momodu Mbuch, and we also have our reporters across the country. Earlier on, you heard from our colleague Ansumana Esonyasi, who is out and about around Sokoto, he's been talking to our voters who have expressed their dissatisfaction with what they say is the low voter turnout as at the time of the interview, and we hope this will change before 5 p.m. when polling stations close in the country. But I mean, it's important that people go out and vote. I know we're in Ramadan, but that's not an excuse for people not to go out and cast their vote, because your vote is your voice, and we are deciding a National Assembly that's going to be part of the whole process as far as the affairs of this country is concerned for the next 5 years. I mean, like I said, we're also streaming on Facebook and YouTube at QTV Gambia, and also on Q Radio 103.3. Like I said, our colleagues are out. Ajibitu Drame is out in the Kanifing administrative area. Modlamin Choi is in Banjul. Modu Gajaga is in Brikama. We have our correspondent Don Williams in the North Bank region. Al-Hassan Bah is in Mansa Konko. Ibrahim Jallo is in the Central River region, and Alaji A.F. Jallo is in the Upper River region. We'll bring you all the happenings across the country. I mean, we've already talked to Ansumana Eso Nyasi. Now, I mean, what should we do to have people go out and vote?
No, for today there's nothing that one can do today. This is a whole process. It's a whole process to change mindset. People must believe that what they do, their votes, will make a meaning, will bring change in their lives. I mean, we have to make politics relevant. To a lot of people, politics is just irrelevant in many ways, you know what I mean, because of the kind of patronage. So that is why I just sort of attach myself to somebody who is powerful and rich and that sort of thing, rather than looking at the grassroots, how we can change things or control things from the National Assembly from that angle. I'm not sure if many people can really see that. So, as I said, politics is not relevant. It's not bringing in what people expect it to. So in the end, sort of, people make their calculations. And then on the basis of that, they just ignore it. So with National Assembly, we've seen this. This is not the first time, 2017, similar thing, very low turnout. We'll see how it will compare with this year's.
53,000 in Sana Mentrang.
Yes, it is one of the largest, isn't it?
One of the largest in the Brikama administrative area.
Absolutely. It's quite, some will say it's unbelievable. You have there, 53, and then you have other constituencies, Janjambure is 1,005, the huge disparity. So these are things that we must also address. The boundaries and make them a bit more equitable, as it were. That's also what we have to address. So this is it. So out of 53,000, one wonders how many will turn out to vote. That will be one of the key things.
It's quite interesting, and like you said, we hope people will go out and vote is important. Musidam hajo hornada QTV dengan ada mudangata mengkondak dengan election hande. Komendan rek yeppamen xibari Ansumana Eso Nyasi o yalti way o no halde belaw ye Serekunda Bartes yimbe yaltani Serekunda london ko nakari yimbe yaltani sukkutano yimbe yalti kono hewanno bete te yimbe hebe be tori pour yimbe ngala be ci yaltide pour be pério carte pour be yalta be pério carte parce que no wadi important pour jalton pério carte monde mo ganda ko on kabono pour wara mon represent to National Assembly. Mr. Mboch, earlier on we spoke about the list of candidates. I mean, we have seen like 85 independent candidates, 18 registered political parties, but we are serving 85 as independent. What went wrong?
I'm not sure whether anything necessarily went wrong. For instance, remember the other day when we had that independent from Banjul Central, he was really a member of the National People's Party. But again, when they said that they wouldn't put up a candidate, well, he really wanted to stand, wanted to contest, so he went independent. So my suspicion is that maybe some of them, they had wanted to be in a party, but perhaps the party had selected differently, so perhaps they are a bit aggrieved, so they've gone independent. And you have others, activists. I think there's you have a lot of activists in this. Then you have a lot of activists who are really genuinely dissatisfied with any of the parties around. So they've decided to go independent. And we've been talking about really the sort of explosion in interest from all sorts of people in politics, the political, as it were, really politics with a big P, with a capital P, because the small bits, with a small P, the fact of going to the ground, doing things, it's a different ball game. So you have all of these people interested, so now they're coming into it, and and my mind is very healthy, it's fantastic.
Well, that's Mamadou Mbodj there helping us to discuss the National Assembly election, quite important for the Gambia. I mean, like I said, I mean, I understand my colleague Mamadou Gajaga is also now live from Brikama in the Brikama administrative area. Gajaga, if you can hear me loud and clear, I mean, where exactly are you in Brikama and what can you tell us?
One of the polling stations in Brikama South. That's where we are right now.
What can you tell us from where you are right now? What is happening there? What can you say?
Well, I'll accept that few people are coming in bits and pieces, coming to vote. Not many. As that much excitement in the presidential election where you have hundreds of people queuing here at this time of the day. But it's nowhere close to that. People are coming in bits and pieces, a few people, and if you come, you just go straight and vote. There is nothing like queue or having many people on the queues. The turnout is not good at all.
Do you know the reason why? Have you been able to speak to some people to tell you why the turnout is so poor at the moment?
Well, I haven't been able to get actually the picture of why the turnout is low, but maybe for so many people, the parliamentary election, they're not too keen about it, not like the presidential election. And for some, maybe because it's the Ramadan. I can only speculate for now. I've not seen any person who would genuinely tell me the reason why people are not turning up in their numbers, just like the presidential election, is because of this reason or that reason.
I mean, have you seen party agents, election observers, security situation there? How is it like?
Yes, exactly. Party agents are here. The security is here. The IC officials are also doing their job. So all of those officials are around and they are conducting their various responsibilities.
Yes, just in the local languages, tell us exactly where you are and what is happening there.
Abaraka bake Aliou Cissé, badi won milbe QTV jibe kan fela le Brikama Madina Bantaba carte fay sa zangoto dami yalon ko mbe ngalon ne ko député carte fay le be kering o député carte fay nying molbe findi kan pour kanana kare ela carte fay bar moment sia ko nga fo nyame angale kanto presidential carte fay wala time wala atara jam fatal teb mo jamman jamon le be nun jang rangol be kering mi yalon ko atara fo ran sabaran nani mi yalon ko mun na pour que la carte fay bari mbe tembe min to janteng moment rasiaring mol kanale killing ni nata drone straight yata e carte fay ni botaje dan after say suwo kono aliou nata nginin ka mune atinna mol man sia nkaay ko jangde mo se min fono wala nyindi ko maybe fo asake sunkarote bang anim fana modol bi jele me alon ko ni nata député carte fay wala dal abuka jari to le baake ko presidential carte fay o nyimbe nyame ni nara jibe fana jammu carte fay san sanolti mi alon ko mo me register janga datal fo mo wuli fulandim feng so dal to nato nyimam bete dal mol man findina nyama pour kana carte fay
Yes, I don't know whether it's possible, Gajaga, if you can just talk to any of the IC officials there, just to sound their opinion as to their take on the low voter turnout at the moment. It will be important just to hear a few words from them, and whether they are expecting to see the turnout change. Like you said, you are in Brikama South constituency, which has 37,720 registered voters in the Brikama South constituency. And in this constituency, we have 6 candidates there. We have Buba Mane, independent, Modu King Koli, GDC, Mansour Sow, independent, Malanding B. Jabang, NPP, Lamin Jiasani, who is the incumbent, UDP, and Lamin Jayu, also an independent candidate. So we have 6 candidates in the Brikama South constituency. I know my colleague Modu Gajaga will try to speak to 1 or 2 of the IC officials there, just to find out from them, their take on the voter turnout. I'm sure some of them must be disappointed. But Mr. Mboch, still low voter turnout in Brikama, where Gajaga is currently. He said he's in Brikama Medina, which that polling station has almost over 2,000 registered voters, but the turnout is low.
Yes, it's beginning to seem like that. It's early yet, of course. But I think we've got a good flavor of how things might look, as it were, in the end. So yes, what is one to make of it? What can one do? What does it tell us? Are people dissatisfied with the candidates who have been put up, or is it simply they're dissatisfied with politics generally?
Mr. Moch, let's now go back to Gajaga, who is about to talk to one of the IEC officials there at the polling station where he is in Brikama South constituency. Gajaga, if you can hear me, it's all yours.
Yes, thank you very much, Alusise. Now I have one of the IEC officials here at the Brikama Medina Bantaba polling station. Gentlemen, please introduce yourself. What's your name?
All right. Okay, I am Mr. Mustafa Jambe, the presiding officer, posted here at Brikama Medina Bantaba, Stream 3.
Okay. Tell us about the National Assembly election today. Did you start it on time, and is everything going on smoothly?
Yeah, we were here as early as 6 o'clock, and then we started the pre-election preparation, that is the activities that are conducted or done before the election. We've completed. Upon that, we received the arrival of party agents, and then from there we also did what we call that we put some sawdust and sand inside the ballot drums to reduce the sound of the bell, and then from there all the party agents witnessed the sealing of the ballot drums. Yeah.
Okay. So far, the turnout is not that much good. It's not much like the presidential election. Has that make your work easy, or has it make it difficult?
Well, definitely you are right. The turnout is not that much impressive compared to that of the presidential election. We were here during the presidential election. The whole of this place was full of people. But for now, it has eased our work because, the turnout is definitely very poor as of now.
And how are you doing with the weather? Because the sun is very hot, and, it actually seems like it's a very difficult moment, and especially in the Ramadan.
Yeah, definitely we are in the month of Ramadan, and as you can see the weather is not conducive, but definitely we are managing because, we are from the Gambia and we have been experiencing such weather. So I don't think the weather can exempt the way we operate. Yeah.
The polls will continue to open up till when time?
Yeah, the closure of these polls is at 5 o'clock prompt. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you too.
Well, Gajaga, you can just still engage him. Okay, he's gone, but just summarize for us what he's been telling you.
Well, Ali, definitely it's about the turnout. I think we can spend a whole day talking about that. We don't know the reason why. We can only speculate whether it's the Ramadan, whether it's because of the weather, whether it's because people are not too keen about the National Assembly election, unlike the presidential election, where you see hundreds of people who are queuing, very keen. They want to vote for somebody who is going to be the chief executive of the country. But also, National Assembly members are people's representatives. They are the ones who represent their constituents. constituencies are the country's bantaba, if you like. So basically, I think it's a very important election as well. But the reason why the turnout is not good remains something that we can always talk about.
Thank you very much, Modu Gajaga. I know he'll be touring some other polling stations in that particular constituency and West Coast region, just to bring us up to speed as to what is happening there in the West Coast region. Mr. Mboch, it seems we're still having the issue of low voter turnout. I mean, it's the same thing for now. I mean, we hope this will change before the closure of polling station. I mean, like I said earlier on, I mean, we are voting in what will be the sixth legislature of this country. Sixth legislature. I mean, looking back at the history of legislatures in this country, how do you reflect?
Wow, this is quite interesting. And when we say, of course, the sixth, we mean what, from independence or from when we were a republic, something like that. Because, of course, I think the first Gambian legislature, that was in 1883.
Yeah, but I think this one is taken from the 1997 constitution.
1997 to now. But let's go.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it from a broader historical angle. And I think really the first person directly elected, maybe this could be interesting, into the Legislative Council in the Gambia was Edward Francis Small, of course, in 1947. Was it something like that? And ever since, you know, from 1951, when other parties came in, be it UDP or Gaba Jahumpa's Gambia Movement Congress and JC5 and all the rest of it. So it's been going on till now. There was a time, remember, can you imagine these people who were attracted to go into the Legislative Council? I think it was later changed to the House of Representatives years later. The caliber, the quality of people attracted to these positions then, it's quite extraordinary. It's a contrast. It's quite a contrast to now what we are seeing now. Now, for some reason, I do not know, many of the intellectuals, many of the really high caliber people do not go in for that. Very few of them can you call really high caliber compared to what was going on in there. Maybe that is a testament to the disappointment of politics, I suppose, from the initial euphoria. You know, everybody was looking forward to it, and gradually politics was disappointing. You know, people were just there for self-enrichment. Then it became cynical and expensive, and we all knew, you know, that it's very difficult to defeat the incumbent. So there were just so many negatives, as it were, that made perhaps what we might call the intelligentsia, or the Russians used to call that. They just sort of, in many ways, they just stayed away from politics, and others just followed the economics, as long as, oh, do not interfere with my business interests. I don't need to have any interest in politics, at least not to run directly. I may sponsor somebody to run, but I certainly wouldn't. And the so-called intellectuals, even some of them, when you talk to them and ask them, have you voted? Oh, no, I haven't. So it's a curious place right now. So you leave the field open to posers, sort of self-publicists, those who are self-important, as it were. So you leave the field open to all sorts. You will certainly have many genuine people who want to go in there, but perhaps they might not have the experience or the competence. And these things, they all matter for effectiveness. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter how much goodwill I have. If I'm not competent, maybe I wouldn't get the right outcomes. These things matter, and you need the experience and that sort of thing. So there could be any number of reasons why the threshold, if you like, and I'm going to say this, of parliamentary participation has really dropped, I'm afraid.
Interesting. I mean, earlier on, I briefly talked about the rules of the National Assembly. I mean, you talk about legislation, oversight functions, representation. I mean, let's look at the issue of the legislation first. I mean, what do you understand from the word legislation and the role of the National Assembly, and how important is that on the lives of the people?
Oh my God, it makes all the difference. It's like the rules of engagement. You know what I mean? Really, so the laws, how we are going to be governed, determined by them. And that's a very tricky thing, really. the sort of skills that I need when I'm dealing with legislation, the analytical skills, research, and problem solving, I mean, and some imagination, because when I pass legislation, it can affect many generations to come. So this is really the engine room, if you like, of the whole governance, you know. So the legislation and the oversight, quite extraordinary, be it in the plenary sessions, in my questions and debates and holding them to account, asking them to speak, or select committees. Or even the third, they can call all these sort of accountability institutions, for instance, the National Audit Office and others, so you can keep a tight grip on what government is doing and whether it's implementing its policies, its programs, and are they having the desired impact? And the money, we are spending it wisely, are we getting value for money? This is hugely, hugely important. That is why some people are scared that they don't want the incumbent party to dominate. That is almost like a de facto dictatorship, if you know what I mean, because whatever bills you take in, the likelihood that they will pass it is quite high. So it just depends. We just hope that once these people go into the National Assembly, of course, your party matters. It was your party that put you in there, even though I do hear some people who tend to say that, no, it's the national, this is all just talk. In practice, it's meaningless. But be conscientious. You know, I'm just thinking of, for instance, the Conservative Party and Boris Johnson. Yeah. There's a certain line your own members will say, nope, no, you cannot cross. You cannot cross. So that's all you ask of them. You know that party matters, the party matters. Because the party's got a program, maybe they voted you in because of the party program. You just cannot come in and start telling us otherwise. It doesn't work like that. But ultimately, have this conscience. Be a citizen first, as it were, in the deep sense, and have your red lines. No party leader, you cannot go beyond that. Even if you are the president, you cannot go beyond that. We hope that we might have people like that.
Representation? What does this mean here?
Absolutely, all sorts of things. I'll be taking the interest of my constituency to the Parliament, and I will also make sure that I am accessible. That is why you do have what they call the surgery, an MP surgery. You see, it almost sounds like you're a doctor. You must have your opening hours. People must come. I must know that every Wednesday between 10 and 12 or even between 10 and 4, it depends on the endurance of the MP. When I go to this office, my MP will be there. Yeah. I've got this complaint that I want to put to him or her. That's what you do. You visit schools, institutions. You show interest, as it were, in your constituency. I think you should be visible all the time. So that's all representation. You know, it's not simply in the Parliament, which you do, and in all of these, the different tools they use, the plenary, committee stage, or anything else. You are representing in the sense that you are saving us from waste. So what we gain could be put in a program that your constituency could benefit from. So there are all forms of ways in the Parliament and outside of Parliament that you represent your people. And I think we've talked about the oversight, the third one.
Oversight, yes. The oversight functions as well.
Absolutely. So you realize that particularly there, yes, in some of the political writers, what they say is that, you know, the third function where you have access or accountability institutions bring in their reports on government agencies. If we really want to tackle corruption, this is one of the key things that we want to tackle. That's really one area where they can do so much. Calling in regularly these oversight bodies, these accountability institutions, getting the state of affairs in our state institutions, and hopefully try to limit, you know, it's just damage limitation in many ways. So hopefully try to limit some of these excesses as we've seen in them. So we see how significant, how important the National Assembly is. To me, it is quite scandalous that you haven't got more high-profile people. These assemblies tend to attract people who are already way successful in whatever they were doing. I expect before you come into the National Assembly, I don't know, maybe 20 years of experience. Yeah. It's only here that I see really young people. You've got no experience in life much, which matters. You need imagination, you need worldliness. Gambia is not alone. Your legislation must reflect the wider international culture that's going on. So you need all sorts of skills and experience to be really an effective National Assembly member.
So in this case, are you suggesting it's high time we review the qualifications for one to be a National Assembly member?
No, it's not about qualification as such. It's more about experience. What have you done? I might have been the head of an institution for years, and when you look at my record, you've seen what I've done. Maybe I'm a business person, you've seen what I've done. Or even just I'm an activist. Perhaps I've spent 20 years of my life in activism, and everybody can see that. So take experience to it, because you'll be dealing with some really sensitive matter as a National Assembly member. So I want you to take huge experience to it. Otherwise, you may give us laws which, instead of facilitating, it might even retard. You know what I mean? So some people who talk about the economic efficiency of constitutions, for instance, the laws you're bringing, would they be economically efficient? Would they really help? You know what I mean? And then this is where you also need imagination, because the unintended consequences. I may bring in this piece of legislation thinking that it might help in this way, but again, that might spawn sort of unintended consequences. So making laws, you need all sorts of skills. It's really a very sensitive thing to do. So I'm just surprised when I see some of these young people, they want to go directly there. Maybe I should have tried the wards. But such is our political state right now, it seems. Anybody can think that you can do the job.
And because anybody thinks, he or she can do the job, I mean, we have seen during the campaign period, I mean, there were a lot of promises made by candidates. Others are promising, I will bring you electricity, I'll bring you roads and all those things. I mean, do you think it is because they don't understand the role of the National Assembly, or that's just a trick being used to get the votes?
Perhaps both, but we've seen, well, come on, during the debates that we had prior to the elections today, we've seen sort of the candidates, sort of promises they were making, and you were constantly pushing them, are you sure that you can do this? And they tell you, oh, I will collaborate with my colleagues. But you know that, but you are in competition with your colleagues. One can understand in certain legislation, you need to come together. But that doesn't imply money or programs and stuff like that. So government programs and policies, they apply generally and they prioritize. So you hope that you will influence, if it is like this fund, project money for roads, to build roads, then you may say, hey, look, I've got the words. You make a persuasive case. You should be a good communicator, skillful negotiator, and have grit, your quality. Have grit, be relentless. You never give up. You're deterministic. This is really what it takes. As it were, and then you are sort of incisive in your scrutiny, in your investigations of these things, and you're visible. This is really what you can do. Sometimes you may get perhaps the right connection and get people maybe to come and invest in your constituency, or you may get people to come and do other things. But these are extras. Really, we shouldn't expect every single National Assembly member to be able to do that. That's not part of the job. It's really difficult. You may have some, the more entrepreneurial, if you like, type, who could bring certain things. All fine, wonderful. But I really wouldn't expect it of my National Assembly member. Because even perhaps that donation, that help, might mean that there would come maybe a legislation, they'll be like, certain interests may not like it. So as a National Assembly member, I'm really very careful what I accept. don't want anything to compromise the integrity, perhaps when it comes to voting or discussing certain issues. So you must be very, very careful.
And if you look at the parliament right now, I mean, we've seen in the last legislature, I mean, so many bills were enacted, even though we still have some pending bills there, such as the anti-corruption bill. I mean, what do you think should be the key priority for the 6th legislature, perhaps maybe in the first 6 months or in the first year in parliament, looking at what is happening currently surrounding the affairs of this country, the welfare of the people?
Well, for me, certainly the anti-corruption bill. That should be the very first. Okay. It is really important that we have this piece of legislation. I understand, of course, the argument that we've got so many laws, you know, the statute books full and all of that, but we never implement. But my argument is that once I have the legal framework in there, then perhaps it may allow civil society organizations as well and others who could invoke it. There could be instances where I could rely on that and go to court. Yeah. We've seen so far what they've been doing. Yeah? So I think it is significant in that way. I'm really not expecting government, I'm not sure, I'm not really expecting government or implementation to change much, just as we've seen in all areas. But again, it could be beneficial to us, to civil society organizations. So in that sense, I think that it is important for it to come. That would be one thing. Other things, of course, would be the oversight functions. Of course, they may continue. What bills they will bring in, well, it depends on this time what government will prioritize. And also private members' bills, what would they bring in? We know that, for instance, for the 5 years or so, they've passed, 53 bills, they've enacted 53, which, yes, to us, some of us, it was just a bit too much. Then I Googled a bit, I looked around, then I realized, in some countries they do 100 a year. Yeah. In fact, I even heard Khalifa Saleh said we should have done more. But you cannot blame them. It was a learning, part of the learning curve. Most of us were learning things, you know, fresh. How do you become National Assembly member? Remember in the House, how many times Khalifa Saleh had to rectify this or rectify that? So that's all part of the learning process. I wouldn't be too censorious on these things.
I mean, you talk about the learning process. I mean, we have a quite good number of sitting MPs who are seeking re-election. I mean, some will say it's going to be a bad idea to have, you know, all of them go and have everyone coming in as a new National Assembly member. What's your take?
What do you mean bad? Would the National Assembly
like
lose something?
Yes,
absolutely. So I'm just wondering, would the National Assembly lose something, for instance, if the incumbents, imagine if most of the incumbents were to lose, and then you have these freshers coming in and winning, what would it do to the National Assembly? It wouldn't be any worse than the 2017 lot. Most of them didn't know much when they were coming in, so they had to learn. So, no, for me, not necessarily so. Even though throughout the debate, we could see that the incumbents, because of their experience, they sort of tended to know more of the role of a national experience and the like. One could see that. But still, just depends on what people say. I don't mind rookies coming in for a long time. We'll have to go through this phase of having to learn politics, parliamentary democracy, that sort of thing. It's just part of the learning curve. I'm not too miffed about it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mboch. Viewers, you reminded that you're still watching QTV and we're broadcasting live from our studios here on Kairaba Avenue. My name is Alio Sise. And I'm here with Mudu Mboch. Gambians are today voting in a parliamentary election to elect the 6th legislature in 53 constituencies. I mean, our reporters are also out in the field. I mean, earlier on, you have heard from Ansuman Eso Nyasi and Momodu Gajaga. Like I said, we have our reporter, Modlamin Choi in Banjul. Ayibintu Drame is also around the Kanifing area. We have our regional correspondents. Don Williams is in North Bank region, Al Hassan Bah in Mansa Konko, Ibrahim Jallo in Central River region, and Alaji AF Jallo in Basse. Like I said earlier on, I mean, out of the 18 registered political parties at the moment, 12 putting up candidates. We have seen the APRC is putting up 7 candidates, NPP 40, NRP 5 candidates, National Unity Party 4 candidates. We have seen UDP 46 candidates, Gambia for All Party 3 candidates, PDOIS 19 candidates, CA 10 candidates, Gambia Democratic Congress Party, that's GDC 27 candidates, GMC Gambia Moral Congress Party 3 candidates, All People's Party 1 candidate, PPP 1 candidate. In total, we have 166 candidates on the party tickets, and we have 85 contesting as independent candidates. We have 4 in Banjul, 12 in Kanifi Municipality, 31 in West Coast Region, 7 in North Bank Region, 6 in LRR, 20 in CRR, and 5 in URR. And now I understand we have our colleague Modlamin Choi on the line from Banjul. Choi, if you can hear me, I mean, where in Banjul exactly are you, and what can you tell us? Well, we've lost Modlamin Choi there, who is in Banjul. Like I said, so in total we had 251 candidates, but I mean, 6 withdrew, and now we are having 5 withdrew, and now we are having 246 candidates contesting in the 53 constituencies in the Gambia. Mr. Moj, now let's look at the voting system in the Gambia, the marbles, secret balloting, and all that. Seems to be very unique.
Oh, absolutely, and we should keep it so. I think that maybe for logistical reasons, we may need to change. That was
at some point, yeah.
At some point, that was what the ISC chairman once said. Right now, I have this sentimental, as it were, I have this sentimental feeling, as it were, about the ballot, the marbles, because of its uniqueness, you know, obviously. But if we have to change it, we change it. You know, pragmatism must always trump sentimentality, as it were. So at some point we'll have to change it, and why not? But for now, you know, the whole world will know the Gambia for, that's one of our selling points. Oh, do you know they use marbles when they vote? So that's a curiosity. You know, so I have this, I just want to humor ourselves. I don't take it seriously at all.
Okay, okay. Well, that's Momodu Mboj. Let's now look at the parties. I mean, looking at the number of candidates that they're putting up. PPP, 1 candidate.
Oh, come on, PPP is dead. PPP has been dead for a very...
They had two candidates in the last legislature, 2 MPs.
Each time, it seems there's a pattern. I mean, we've had so many parties in the past, and parties just come and go. UP, gone. Yeah. That was the Gambia Muslim Congress. Now you've got the Gambia Moral Congress. So parties come and go. It's just the nature of evolution. Just as people come and go, parties, associations, and all of them will come and go. Now the new party that has emerged is the NPP. It is the one in power. So here it will test its muscles, its parliamentary muscles. So for us now it will be important to know who will come out the major challenger. The opposition, the Republic's opposition. Yeah. Not here, we don't have Your Majesty's opposition. So the Republic's opposition, UDP, the last time they had 31. This time, how many would it be?
They had 31 along the line. 8 were
defected or expelled.
The National People's Party.
That's it. So how many this time? What is the extent of the damage? We saw it in the presidential election. I mean, the margin of victory, I think, was more than 20%.
Yeah.
That was huge. That was a humiliation. So how would that be reflected? Would it be reflected in the parliamentary? We do not know. And the other parties, the NRPs, now they're in cahoots with NPP. They are in alliance.
And because of that, we have seen the NPP is not putting up candidates in Sabak Sanja, Lower Salum, Upper Salum, Nyanja, and Nyamia Dakunko, because NRP is defending the 5 seats that they currently have in parliament, and they have maintained the same people.
Absolutely. So we'll see whether they can retain it, as it were, and the other parties, what PDOIS had 4, GDC what had 5. So what's the new power balance?
Yes, Mr. Mbote, I understand we have Modlamin Choi on the line now from Banjul. Modlamin Choi, if you can hear me, where in Banjul exactly are you, and what can you tell us?
Thank you very much, Aliu. I am at Banjul Central. Banjul Central is one of the constituencies, 3 constituencies in the capital city, where we have independent candidates and other candidates that are representing political parties. We have around 3 independent candidates, including PDOIS, PPP, UDP, GFA, who are also political party candidates who are contesting in this constituency. Things have already started. We've seen people coming in 1s and 2s, and quite interestingly, we have young people, coming out. But also, I spoke to some officials of the Independent Electoral Commission on the ground here, who have said that the turnout for now has not yet been impressive. 2 independent candidates have already casted their vote. One of them is Abdullah Njai and Lyndon B. Johnson. He is currently standing by me. If you wouldn't mind, we will speak to him.
Wonderful.
Right now.
Go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, you can go ahead, Modlamin.
Yes. Thank you very much, Lyndon B. Johnson. You've already casted your vote. What message do you have for the constituency having voted?
Thank you very much. All the time, irrespective of the residents at their houses, the message that I have for them is for them to come out and vote, for them to come out and exercise their constitutional right. Because it's the constitutional right of every Gambian to come out and cast their vote.
Well, we've lost our colleague Modlamin Choi there in Banjul Central constituency, which is by far the biggest in terms of number of registered voters in Banjul. Banjul Central has 8,371 registered voters, and by the way, that's where the president is voting. He's voting at the Makati Square, which is in the Banjul Central constituency. And in Banjul Central constituency, we have Aminata T.B. Jara of Gambia for All Party. We have Lyndon B. Johnson, Banjul Central, also independent. Babukar Mbuch, PDOIS. Mohamed Ndao, the sitting MP, is contesting under PPP, and the only candidate put up by the People's Progressive Party. We have Mamadou Cherno Jallo of the United Democratic Party, Alaji Jah, independent, and Abdullah Njai, also an independent. Mr. Mbuch, seems the low turnout is everywhere. Banjul is also the same thing, according to what we have just heard from our reporter, Modlamin Choi.
Absolutely, that's exactly it. So it's just as the question you asked before, who would benefit from this? Yeah. so that's it. And Banjul Central, remember we had a debate. The 2 contestants exactly. Came, and we had Babukar Mbuch of PDOIS and LBJ, Lyndon Johnson, what a coincidence. And yes, it was a heated, wasn't it? It was a spirited debate between the 2. It was unfortunate that the incumbent didn't come. So we'll see what will happen at the end of the day. Who will the voters choose? Will they go with the incumbent, or will they say it's about time that we moved on? I know that a good number of people were complaining about his visibility, that people were not seeing him. Well, today the voters will decide whether he deserves another term or they want a new one.
And let's look at CA. I mean, their candidate, who is the party leader, Ismail Assisa, was rejected in the last presidential election. But we are seeing CA putting up 10 candidates.
Absolutely. Why not? I
Did
mean,
you saw this coming?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
They didn't see this one coming. Maybe thought that they would put up fewer number. But this is it. But again, there was a certain, I don't know, a certain attention that CA really drew into itself, because not least because of this young Dr. Ismail Assise, university lecturer. So he could attract people that were making quite a noise. There was quite a noise with that party. It was unfortunate that he couldn't contest. So we'll see the 10 candidates they put up. Obviously, this is where they feel confident. These are constituencies they feel confident, reasonably confident they could do something. So we'll see what the people think, because it's also one of the new parties. So how popular are they? This will be sort of an objective, as it were, assessment of their popularity.
Yes, and earlier on we're talking about the people that have withdrawn from the election. We have seen Parliament Saho of Joswan constituency, independent. He has withdrawn from the election. I mean, they are 5 in number. We have also seen Abdullah Bari in Kiang East constituency. He has also into the IEC to withdraw. We've seen in Kiang West constituency, the one who was nominated on the GFA passed away, Lamin M. Jai, and is now being replaced by Lamin Marang, the current principal of Muslim Senior Secondary School. We've also seen in Lower Salem constituency, Mustafa S. Cham, who was contesting on the PDIS party, has also withdrew, and also Malik Jassy, also independent candidate in Lower Salem, also has had written to the IEC to withdraw, and also Seluba in Upper Salem constituency also withdrew. So these are the candidates who were nominated, but later decided to withdraw from the rest. And we were talking about some of the sitting MPs who are seeking re-election. For example, we talk about the UDP retaining 17 of their sitting MPs, and that is, we have Asanture Bakau, Keke Baro of Combo South constituency, Bakari Njai, Bundukakunda constituency, Madi Kesise, Serekunda West constituency, Alaji S. Dabo, Brikam and Nuff. But I understand my colleague Ansumana Esonyase is back on the line. Ansumana, where are you now, and what was the latest from wherever you are?
Yes, Aliu, I am now at Nema Alkali. I mean, of course, Nema is divided into two, Nema Nasiru and Nema Alkali. The turnout isn't bad compared to the places we visited earlier. I mean, Serekunda as well as Sukuta, which is under Sandimentary constituency. We're now in Nema Kunku, which is under Old Union constituency in the West Coast region. Here, like I said, the turnout isn't bad compared to the other polling stations we visited earlier. However, we've had 1 or 2 conversations with, some of the voters, and they seem to also have, the same concern regarding the low voter turnout, that during the president's election, the turnout was much better. But we have, one of the voters here with us, and we will try to engage him. Uncle Tu Bakarindong. It is
a little bit low. The turnout is not good. In the morning it was a little bit better, but then right now it is really low. The turnout is not that good.
We visited several polling stations earlier, but the turnout here really seems to be better than even the places we've been to.
Had it been, if you come in the morning, it was full up. But here is Nema, we were expecting about 4,000 plus registered voters. So possibly there's still hope, people are coming. I think it's going to be better. The turnout is going to turn good.
What do you make of the entire process here? How has it been like?
Everything was nice and calm. Everything is nice and calm. Both stations are doing correctly.
I did mention that we visited several polling stations earlier, and the turnout hasn't been good. Here too, you are not quite impressed with the turnout. What message do you have for viewers watching this broadcast, especially those that are yet to cast their vote?
I could tell everybody, as a Gambian, you have your voter's card, come out. Much more those living in Nemakunku. Let them come out. Almost the place is quiet. Most of the time, possibly people will be thinking of, okay, let me wait, it's Ramadan, till later I could come. But right now, let them come out. The place is a little bit quiet.
So quickly in the local language, Mandinka, Wolof, what do you make of the turnout?
Because mobe konton na kilin na tol ni konton wala. Ntelom bakari ndong nema kunku. Mbe fala mobe ko alhamdulillah mo funjitana ne de bar funto nyin dasatal han kabir. So te ngal ne ko mbi sunkaro le kono mo jamma bi damin to la pour ka sunkaro la funto ka wakil ka funtate ka kolya. Bar mi mobe dain la ka se Gambian mobe right so pour fo la député Londi. So e funtina sa kono ko min bi nema kunku. Right now, police station in Rantije, Ebina Droid, Ita, la Catefa. The mobile dying like Capirin Gambia Blaudatu, Alfuntalta la Catefa.
Abarakabake, Mr. Ndong. Mr. Ndong, Nungla New La Fay. Nakangisi election bitay.
Election bi, alhamdulillah. Kuma sena inko se jama, te affaire bi yep mu ngi dem si smoothly. Wante lima se ñaax si nit ñi. Nañ génn ñëw vote ku am sa voters card bul toog ne a weer ko la te sànni carte député la jaru ko bii moo gën a important dan sànni carte président because bii mooy suñ baati ñun ak suñ député yi ñoo nekk benn député bi da nga waaxu doo fix benn appointment nga dem fekk ko loolu tax pourtant na député dafa am solo so ma ngi ñaan ku nekk nañ génn sa kontuma ñi nekk Nema Kunku place bi fu mu nekk nii moom amut rang dangaa dugg rek dem seet nga dem saani ma ngi ñax ñëpp ne ñu ne saani seen carte bi. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ndong. We appreciate your time. Aliu, as you've heard from Mr. Ndong, there is one of the voters, and he's of course also expressed concern with the low voter turnout. I mean, he says earlier it was a bit better, so we try to engage, another voter. Nijaay ñu ngi la nuyu.
Salaamaaleykum wa rahmatullah.
Tur bi.
Abdoulaye Thiam. Man Nema laa dëkk. Alhamdulilah ñu ngi sant yàlla. ñu julli ci Yonent bi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. di wax ne nekk nii tey ñu ngi ci bési élection bi nga xam ne mooy pour après député yi. waaye asal ñu ngi sant yàlla bu baax a baax a baax ñu ñaa ngi ñëw ndànk-ndànk parce que jamono weeru koor la waaye ñi rek ñu ngi joxe seen xàq bu baax parce que sànni député. dafa nekk kaddu goo xam ne mooy sa kaddu boo xam ne tey ci nga mën a amee sa bopp mooy sa bali fetal boo xam ne ci nga mën a garantir sa bopp ñi nag dañu am loo xam ne dañ ko da réeree mbir ñu bàyyi xel loolu ji nga président élection fii dafa feesoon tepp waaye bi nga xamee ne tey ñu ngi ci néegi député yi tey tonaaw bi ni mu war a doxee tey xëy na dana dox ci kanam waaye ni mu war a doxee gut ko bu jamono bu ñu toll nii ba see booy
amoon kàddu pour ñi nga xam ne ñoo nekk si kër bi de seetaan te sànni guñ kàtta lan nga leen wax.
li ma leen wax ñi nga xam ne ñoo ne ci kër yi tey war a taxaw waroon na ñëw sànni si kàtta ñi ngay yàqal seen bopp ëllëg seen kàddu ci kii bi. registre bi nga xamee ne tey ñu ngay joxe registre fii Nema waa Nema ñoom ñëpp dañ topp suñ kaw jox ñu registre registre bi lu muy jëriñ mooy pour nga am ci kàddu mën a jël sa kàddu réew mën a bàkk sa réew mën a liggéeyal sa askan. député yi fu mu nekk nii ñii dañ ko xeeb waaye député mooy tànn président mooy tànn lu nekk mooy indi lu nekk ci réew mi kon ñii nañu di respecté sànni élection député yi ñuy joxe cadre yi bu baax ñëw sànni seen cadre yi bu baax wane ne ñun député bi la gën a respecté ci présidentielle bi parce que député bi moo lay xeexal ci lépp loo xam ne mooy sa askan mooy sa xàq mooy sa wareef ci réew mi.
jërëjëf.
waaw kon ñu ngi lay sant di la ñaanal yàlla. yéen waa Kuy TV ñu ngi leen a sant ñu ngi leen a gërëm rawatina sama doom bi nga xam ne tey ñëw na fii tey ànd ak ñun ñu bokk na liggéey tey ci la naflaay Gambia boo xam ne tey ñu yàlla defal jàmm ku ci yàlla jox place bi daal yal na la jig ak jàmm yàlla nga jig askan bi ci barke alquran lépp loolu askan bi sas daal yal na la yàlla may xéwal boo ko mën a defalee askan bi ñu ñëpp ñu jëriñu ci barke alquran ci barke weer koor salaamaaleykum wa rahmatullah.
jërëjëf Oncle kaddu bi rafet na. We also engage, another voter here. Uncle Turbi?
Man,
naka nga gisee élection?
léegi ñu war a gisee nañ ngeen dollee góorgóorlu ci nit ñi seen waxtu bu jotee nit ñi góorgóorlu ci yéen su nit ñi bëggee yéen itam góorgóorlu leen ci nit ñi na ngeen góorgóorlu ndax fi mu ne nii jafe-jafe bi yëpp la waaye jafe-jafe moom bu xamee ñëpp koy xam waaye na ngeen dollee góorgóorlu fexe leen jigéen bi ngeen wootee nit ñi ñoom ñëw màggat yeeg gune yeeg yëpp ñëw nañ su fekkee ne nag dem nañ ba mbir mi passé xam na ñoo xam ne kenn dootu leen gis te loolu baaxut.
ñi taxaw
waaw mooy ñi taxaw soo taxawee ñu taxawle la ba sa taxawaay jàkk demati ñi la ko taxawaaloon nga dimbale leen wala soo leen mënta dimbale nga leen jërë ngeen jëf sax baax na waaye jërë ngeen jëf sax daf leen di bëgg a të nañ de doolee góorgóorlu ñun ñëpp allahumma salli ala sayyidina Muhammad.
Jerejef, I mean, Ali, I think the message is quite clear. I mean, he's, he's addressing the candidates that whoever wins should ensure that, I mean, you stay connected, to your people, that you always, raise issues that are of concern to your constituents, as and when required. Turbi?
Aissatou Sane.
Aissatou, naka nga gisee election bi?
Election bi, it is successful, it is peaceful. People are coming and voting peacefully. There is no problem here. And I hope it is going to be.
What do you make of the turnout as well?
It is good. People are coming out and it is successful. People are voting peacefully. There is no trouble here. And I hope it will continue like this till in the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Aissatou. So I mean,
well,
basically,
and Sumana,
yes.
I don't know whether it's possible if you can probably talk to one or two of the IC officials and even party agents, just to find out from them what's their take on the process, because they are the party agents there. Do they have any issue or whatsoever regarding the whole process so far? I think it would be important.
Exactly. I did. I mean,
if you can do that, while
I did engage them.
Yeah, you can just
engage them. I mean, they don't want to do that on camera, but from my conversation with them, they told me that so far, I mean, they have not had any problems. It's all going very fine, and they're happy with the process. That they don't have any hitches. Like I said, they don't want to do that on camera.
Thank you very much, Ansumana Eso Nyasi, our reporter there in Nema Kunku. Nema Kunku is in the Old Yundum constituency, which has 50,506 registered voters, and in Old Yundum constituency we have a quite good number of candidates there, almost 7, 8. I mean, we have Aliu Nyang of CA, we have Alaji Fall, GDC, Abdullah Sise, who is the incumbent NPP, we have Apa Alunjai, PDOIS, Lamin Sabal, UDP, Maimuna Tamba, independent, and Alpha Usman Jalo, also independent candidate, and Momadou M. Jai, who is contesting on the National Unity Party. Viewers, you remember you're still watching QTV, and we're broadcasting live from our studios here on Kairaba Avenue. My name is Alio Sise, and I'm here with Modum Boch. We will go with a short break, and we'll be back soon. Do stay tuned.
Are you looking for Islamic insurance?